Morning, afternoon, evening from our house. Today I'm making tuna pasta sweet corn. First of all, we started off by preparing the steamer. We just added water to the pan, the bottom of the pan, and then we moved it over to the hob. We then put the lid on and turned it up to high heat. Meanwhile, I prepared the fish. My mum had washed it before with salt, but you don't have to. We just cut it in half because it was a bit too big to fit in the Pyrex dish. We added it to the Pyrex dish and put it into the steamer bit so that we were ready to put it back in once I had seasoned and put the onions in. I started off by peeling the onion. We're using 3 onions for the amount of fish that we have, but you don't need to use that many if you don't want to. The onion is just for the flavour afterwards. To peel it, I cut off both the ends and then used my nails to peel it. And that's my mum in the background, by the way. Now that I've finished peeling it, it's time to chop it thinly. First of all, I cut it in half so that it's more stable. Then I cut it very thinly. It doesn't have to be perfect though, because you're just going to mix it with the fish for the flavour. Once I had finished cutting all 3 of the onions, I then put it in the Pyrex dish with the fish in it. You need to spread it around, but you don't need to do too much because you'll be mixing it later on. Now I've added all the onions, so now I'm going to season it. I'd suggest putting a lot of salt in, but once it's cooked you can add more salt, so don't worry. Now add some pepper. I like a lot of black pepper, but you don't need to add too much if you don't want it. Now it's time for putting the oil in. It doesn't actually matter what oil you use. In the end, I think I used about 2 tablespoons of oil, but I just judged it by seeing it. Don't forget to spread it around, but again, you'll be mixing it in a bit anyways. Now it's time to mix it with your hands, but you can mix it with a spoon if you want, but it's going to be very hard. Or you can just wear gloves and mix it with your hands. Try to get all the salt and pepper and oil to be on every bit of the tuna, not just a few pieces. Also, try to get the onion layered in between the bits of tuna so that you get the flavour throughout the whole dish. Now it's time to put it in the steamer and let it cook for 30 minutes. Now it's time to cook the pasta. I filled the pan to about 80% of it was full of water. Then I brought it over to the hob. I added about half a teaspoon of salt. Sprinkle it around. Then I added oil. That's so that the pasta does not stick together. For our family of 4, we usually use about 2 spoons per person so that we have extra in the morning. You can use how much your family needs. I covered it and let it cook. Time to take out the tuna. We took the tuna out and checked if it was cooked first. It was cooked. I took out a few pieces and put it into the bowl. I didn't use all of it because then it's very easy to break. But if you keep it in the fridge for a bit, because it won't have the liquid, it will be harder to scrape or break. time to scrape the fish. We're breaking it apart so that there's small bits instead of having a big chunk of tuna. Then I added a can of sweet corn, which I'd already drained. I then seasoned it with some salt and pepper, as I tried the tuna and it didn't taste like it had much salt. Then I added mayonnaise, just enough so that it coated all of the bits of tuna and the sweet corn. Our family also likes spicy food, so I also added sriracha sauce, but that is obviously optional. Time to mix. It's very hard to mix because it could just go flying everywhere, so you have to be very slow and careful. This is how it looked when we were close to finishing mixing it. By the time you've done all of the tuna, the pasta should be done. This is how it looks on the plate. This is a very nice dish that you can also use the tuna for doing salads like my mum had last night as well.